my bitches and bros and non-binary hoes. My video's probably gonna get age restricted and none of you will see it, but this is part 2 of What If Deku Was Evil. A little bit of announcements. I'm back. Also, part 2 of What If Naruto Was Gaster Sands will be up soon when I get done with it. Part 2 of What If the redo of What If Naruto Was Black. Also, wait, hold on. Yes, this part, and then I'll be doing a new series. So yes, hopefully you guys enjoy it. And back into the story. So where we left off, Deku was leaving from the entrance exam. Going home. So we sorry. Through that time, he was training with me. Hey, yo, girl. So during that time, he was training with me, like I said, before somebody rudely interrupted me. But yeah. So when that happened, they were training for like the time until the card got there. So they're training, and we time skip to like freaking, what's it called? When he gets his note, he obviously passes. He gets first place. Bakugo comes in, knocks on his door. When he notices that he didn't get first place, and he sees that Izuku did. And, he's, like, knocking on the door, saying, "Hi, Aunt, Iko, can I talk to Zuko?" So, she's like, "Sure." She brings him down, and, Bakugo's, like, acting all kind. So, Deku's like, what the fuck is he doing? So, he's all wary, but he's like, whatever. It doesn't matter. So, he walks over to, him. And, now that he's over, they go on a walk, their way. And when they're, like, decently far from their house, Bakugo goes, How did you get a higher score than me, you goddamn nerd?" Deku was confused, because, he was, like, all calm and shit. Now he's like this. I was like, I just trained. And he's like, "But you're a quirkless loser." And he's like, "No, I'm not. I have a quirk." He's like, "Yeah, right, you quirkless loser. Also, how did you use explosions? That's mine. My thing." Bakugo being all, like, shitty and shit, So, as Bakugo has his hands on like, Deku's shoulders, he's like, "Get off me." So, him being all, like, meanie and blah, 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 Deku grabs his arm and flips Bakugo on his back and restrains him and says, "Get off me. I'm not the same person like I used to be." Bakugo is confused because, he was always able to push Deku around, and he's not able to anymore. So, when Deku does this, he's like, if you come after me next time, I'll do this, but I'll break your arm, And, he lets Bakugo and starts walking towards the house. But obviously, Bakugo being like, "I ain't gonna lose to you," start using explosions, and, starts to fly towards, fly towards Deku. And this is the point where Deku's like, whatever. And he uses his gravity quirk. I'm putting up finger quotes, quirk, because that's what it's technically registered as. He uses gravity quirk to push Bakugo down into the ground and stay there until he's like, "I told you. I'll give you one more chance. If you don't do what I said, I'm going to break your arm." And, Bakugo's like, scrunting in pain because, obviously that hurt. He just got slammed down into the concrete. And there's, like, a crater. So, he's like, "Whatever, you goddamn nerd." And, Deku locks him up. Bakugo's thinking, like, maybe I should throw an explosion at him, to, like, catch him off guard, But Deku, knowing Kachan so well, he's like, "Also, if you throw an explosion at me, I'll kill you. I'll kill you." This confusing Kachan, Bakugo, like, what did he say? Kill me? He's confused in all this shit. But, he's like, he did beat my ass, So, whatever, he leaves, for... Oh, stop. He leaves, and, when he leaves, he's like, I'm gonna get him back. So, when he does, so he leaves. Then we have Deku returning to his house, eating dinner. We return to, like, the first day of, UA. So, he's walking up to like go to the school, and I just go pop and teleport right in front of him. He's like, "Hi, how are you?" Like all giddy and shiz said, and he's like, "I'm good. How are you?" As we're walking in school, as he's like, "What do you want?" And he's like, "Oh, I just came to tell my student to have a good day." Blah 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 blah. And that as that happens, as that we skip to when Deck is in class, everybody's like wondering who's this like emo antisocial kid, who literally has like a hoodie and looks like he's dead inside. Bakugo's like in his head scrunching like, goddamn nerd. I don't. How could he beat me? Having a midlife crisis. Both of you, I swear to God, if you don't shut up, okay? Stop. This is not funny, okay? I'm trying to record. Bakugo having like a midlife crisis. So yeah, when this happens, they're like all comparing their scores and like who got the high score. When Deck, Adrian, no guys, stop. Well, sorry guys for the interruptions. People are in my room and they're being loud and they don't know how to stop. Okay, so they're comparing their scores and then they find out that this emo kid, who who looks completely dead inside, got the highest score of like 217 points. Sorry, 300 something points. Beating All Might's score. They're all surprised and shit. So they're like, "Wait, how did you do it? This, that, that." Deku just ignores him and goes sit down. And relaxes. Aizawa pops up and says that you've been like talking too loud. This ain't gonna work. And when everybody says, "Who's that?" Deku says, "That's Aizawa, aka Eraserhead. He's our classroom teacher." Everybody's asking like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, "One, he was literally right behind the desk and I saw him, and two, I know almost all the teachers here." So they're confused like, "What? This kid knows all the teachers here?" Like, blah blah blah. And that's happening. So he's like, "Get your uniforms on," blah blah blah. And Deku just grabs it and walks out and he's like, go figure. He's the first one to leave. Bakugo follows after him. Uraraku's like, "But orientation and freaking freaking but I was always like, this is not normal school. Like you don't need orientation. Blah blah blah." So they skip. We're gonna skip. So freaking All Might. He's interested in Deku. Because he hasn't picked a successor yet, and his master. Well, he healed his injury, blah blah blah. So yeah, he's a lot confused. Like, what? This is like confusing, But yeah, as this happens, hold on, guys. So we time skip to like this when they're doing the exam. Sorry, we don't time skip to there. We skip to when they're in the locker room. Deku sees Mineta like looking at that hole, blah blah blah, and he's like, this is not happening. And as he uses his gravity quirk again, finger quotes, and pushes Mineta to the ground and says, "If you do that again, I'll stomp your brains out. I'll stomp your head until your brains come out and you start to bleed from your eyes." This is like freaking scaring the shit out of Mineta. Because he's like he can barely breathe. He's like squished like a pancake, and he's like, "Oh my god, okay, yeah, stop." Yes, you can. Sorry, guys, for all the interruptions. So he's like, "Oh my god, okay, like almost shitting himself." Like, yeah, okay, I get it. When Deku lets him up, he grabs like a bit of like the freaking bit of the what's it called, bit of like the floor or something, something. Or he grabs like a wood, he hits it into like he chops it with his hand, cuts it with his hand into like the perfect hole to plug it up, So he plugs up the hole and says, "There," and I swear to God, if one of you looks through there, I'll beat you till you can't breathe. So this is confusing them all. Like, how is this dude here? He's he his like mentality is like a villain, you know. So as this goes on, Minetta's like telling Aizawa this because that and all the kids are telling him like, hey yo, this blah blah blah. Aizawa's confused as all hell. Like this kid seems like a fucking villain, you know. But yeah, so we cut to the scores. Deku, is like, what can I do? And he's like, oh, I got an idea for like the ball throw, and he's like, all right, I'll show you. And he uses his gravity quirk with his explosion quirk again, exclamation point, to make the gravity, like the freaking ball float, and then he uses the explosions to launch it further, and he launches it to the point where it comes all the way around the world, and it's like continuously going because of the float and shit. So All Might's like they're all confused as all hell, like what the fuck just happened, And yeah, so as that's going, like they're all confused like shit, So he gets like infinity, and Uraki, the all scores as per canon, Then we go to like the speed thing, he speed blitz even Ida, he's fast as fuck, It looks like he teleported to like the students, So when he gets freaking besides him, he gets like the fastest score, all the scores are per normal. When he goes to use the grip chest, he fucking breaks that shit, When he breaks that shit, yeah, he breaks it. And then next thing is, wait, I think that was it. Yeah, that was it. And he gets the top scores, and All Might's like, holy shit, I think I might train him to be my successor and shit, And cause he like broke everything, but he's like, we'll see about what happens like tomorrow when we do the joint training mission, everything. So, as this happens, sorry, as this happens, Bakio's pissed as all hell, he's like, and, he goes after Deku, but, Aizawa restrains him and shit, like, blah, 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 if you do this, you're not gonna be a hero, yada, yada, yada. So we time skip to, the day after, where they're doing the, training exam with All Might, All Might's not really All Might's paying attention to the other kids, but not as much as he is paying attention to Deku's skills, so, everything goes as per normal, with the fighting, so, like, with the team matchups, Uraraka looks at Deku, like, she starts to blush when she looks at Deku, Deku looks at her and sees that she's blushing, he's like, that's confusing. He's like, okay. Because, he really doesn't know what to say, So, when that happens, freaking Deku, Deku's like, hey, don't worry, I got this, like, if you want, I can help you, because he kind of doesn't want to say what he wants to say, because, he's going to say, you're pretty much useless, I have your quirk, but better, and same with Bakio, so he's like, I don't want to say it, so, he's like, hey, I got an idea, and he tells her to, like, get on his back, and she's obviously blushing, and, Deku, is, getting ready to run, and then All Might says, sir! Deku runs through the hallways, and he sees Bakio. Bakio is ready to launch an explosion at him, but then he starts actually, like, running, and he literally, he runs on the walls and flips around him and goes straight. And then he drops off Uraka, and then he goes to fight Bakio and says, you go onto the roof, and what I want you to do is I just want you to grab a bunch of debris, okay? So, she's like, okay. So, she goes around finding debris and making it float, Well, Deku fights him, this happened, and what Deku does is speed blitz the fuck out of Bakio, and, like, grabs him by Bakio by the arm, and just slams him to the floor, restrains him, and then puts the rope on him, so, he's out. And, as All Might says, Bakugo Katsuki is out. Fuck that. No, he says Boxy. Just pretend I didn't say that, He says Bakugo Katsuki is out, and, Uraraka's like, oh, well, that's just, well, okay. And, she's like, damn, he's so strong. Blah, blah, blah. And, we go on to the, Frank, sorry, guys, my brain isn't working today. Then we go to Uraraka's perspective, where she is making, like, debris float, and, what Deku told her was to take the debris and throw it, go into a different building beside you, and throw it at, Ida, into, like, the window of Ida for distraction, and he'll touch the bomb. So, she's doing this, Ida's confused, like, he thinks, like, something's going on, as all of a sudden, heroes win. He's confused as all hell, and, he realizes that, Deku ran as fast as he could to touch the bomb while Uraraka was creating a distraction. So yeah, he's like, damn it, I lost, blah, blah, blah. All the other fights go as per canon. And, All Might's like, I think he's the one, blah, 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 this, that. And, he's like, he comes over to me and he's like, can I talk to you about something? And I'm like, sure. What do you need to talk about, And he's like, I think your student, I think Deku is his name. And I'm like, oh yeah, him. And and All Might's like, yeah, I think he should be the inheritor for One For All. As I'm like, I saw this coming. And he's confused, like, what, you saw this coming, Blah, blah, blah. He's like, can't you tell him that from your world? As All Might's, like, confused as all fuck, like, the fuck's going on? I pretty much explained to him what Deku's quirk is and all that shit, and, I'm like, yeah. How do you think he learned my powers? I'm not from this world. So, All Might's, like, struck dumbstruck and says, like, what other powers do you have? And I'm like, that's a secret, but I'll tell you how I knew, you freaking, were able to, do this. Knew you were gonna do this. I have, like, a power that allows me to see into the future, so yeah. And he's like, oh, fuck, this dude may be the most powerful dude in the world, but all he does is just lay around. So, that happens, and, I'm like, yeah, sure, you can make him his successor. And, what happens? Bada bing, bada boom. Deku is the successor to All For One, but, hear me out, he does not have All For One yet. So, what is going on is, you see, we're going to cut to the perspective of the League of Villains, and, as they realize, oh, fuck, this is not good. All Might's back in his prime, like, somehow he's gone from, like, barely even doing hearing work, blah, blah, blah. So they boost the fuck out of that new Nomu. That new Nomu is pretty much, like, what Endeavor fought, Like, it's not on the same tier, but you know what I mean. It's like a high tier Nomu. So, they boost the fuck out of that shit. And, they're like, this should kill him, So, we skip to a time where, me and Deku are training, because I'm still training with him. I'm still a sensei, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm like, hey, you want to see something cool? As I scream. As I scream, Kaioken! As all you see is a red aura, and I'm like, you want to learn? As Deck is, like, confused, like, what will that do? And I'm like, hold on, I'll show you. And I get out of Kaioken, and I'm like, alright, so this is my normal speed, and, as I run around my normal speed, and he's like, yeah? And I'm like, but this is when I use Kaioken times 2, okay? And you can go higher than 2, as I scream, Kaioken times 2! As I go into Kaioken and I'm runs, and he can tell that my speed doubled, and I'm like, that's also his strength. But it takes a lot of endurance. So, do you want to learn? Alright, I gotta go take out dogs, but I'll be talking about it while I'm taking out the dogs. So, hold on, let me pause real quick. Okay, so, as I'm training him, and I go and, I'm like, all right, so through this period of, before the, fucking UA attack, I'm training Deku on how to use Kaioken times 2. So, as this is happening, I'm like, alright. So, it's like, I'm like, don't use this unless you have to. Because, I'm like, I know people already know I'm strong and everything, but they don't need to know, like, I'm the most powerful dude in the world and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, whatever, As he's like, whatever. So, we skip to, like, the no mood hack, That goes as per canon, besides, like, everything besides goes as canon. Besides, like, thing with Deku, when the villains come after Deku, he puts his hands together, and, he screams, "Die!" As he just blasts them with a giant wave of, explosions. And, that, like, kills one of them, but knocks out the rest of them. Sorry, it kills one, brutally injures another, and, knocks out all the rest of them. So, as that happens, Asui's like, oh, fuck. Because obviously when he did this, it didn't just do this. If it was enough heat to fucking kill somebody, that was hot. So, when he shot it, the water evaporated. And she's like, oh, fuck. Yeah. So she's like, oh, God, I'm scared, blah, blah, blah. So, that happens as per canon, Then we get to, where, Shigaraki is about to touch Sue's head. And as soon as Deku sees that, he's like, get away from her! And, runs and kicks Shigaraki's hand back and hitting it, kicking it back and so it hits his head. And, he's like, his hand isn't his head. His arm hits his head and he's like, no moo, kill him. Because obviously, he's being shot, blah, blah, blah. And, the Nomu goes after him, and, All Might's, fighting the Nomu, because, not All Might's there, obviously, since he's able to do 100% of everything. So he's like, no, I will not let you get to him, he's fighting the Nomu. But, the Nomu's, like, almost beating the fuck out of him, because, like I said, the Nomu's stronger, right? This Nomu is stronger than, freaking, what's his name? Stronger than All Might. So, yeah. So, as this is happening, the Nomu runs over to, Deku, and he starts trying to kill him. But, all of a sudden, this, he screams, Kyaio! Ken! Times 2! As, all of a sudden, a red orb bursts around him, and he screams, I will kill you! As, all of a sudden, his explosions go from, like, normal explosions to, blue explosions. And, he's like, die! As he's launching a barrage of, attacks at the Nomu, which is obviously not killing him, but, it's injuring him, because, fire, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, as he's, like, pushing, as he goes, I will not let you survive, as he uses his gravity quirk to, float the Nomu into the air, and then he uses his, he reverses it to where they will, like, go into the ground, and he slams the Nomu into the ground, knocking out their brain, but, it regenerated it, as all of a sudden, you see, die! As all of a sudden, Deku changes his fist into, like, a karate chop and throws him in the air as it cuts away the head and shit. And, he starts burning, like, incinerating the fucker, as All Might's starting, like, beating the fuck out of it, too. As they do this, All Might, knocks its head off, and Deku, like, fucking destroys that shit. He's, like, that thing's, like, a pile of dust right now. So, yeah. And, it's still trying to regenerate, but, it's, like, not gonna work, So, Shigaraki, just fucking leaves, and, he, like, fucking, nothing happens, He leaves, and, when he leaves, he's like, that stupid fucking brat.